Well, hello, folks. This is the new microphone stand. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. Please, I'm really navigating this whole background thing right now. It feels like there's a shadow, and I should be sitting here. All right, this is a good test. Hopefully, the microphone's not too loud. Let's get into it. Let's just get into a good week, a good weekly update. This feels slightly better. I guess the AC doesn't matter. It's okay. Everything seems fine. We got Alevist Lightseeker here, of course. We have the Darth Revan lightsaber, the real deal. It's a microphone now. So this is very dangerous, by the way, as it's facing my face. Let's get into what I finished reading this week. Let's get right into it. First of all, I wanted to thank you all. As I said, we're getting right into what I read last week and what I finished reading. At first, I want to thank you guys all for commenting on the last video, liking the last video, subscribing to the channel, coming to hang out. I'm really grateful for you guys that do so. I love talking in the comments about everything book, everything story, writing, whatever you guys got going on. Just please feel free to share in the comments below. I love that. I love that kind of aspect of this community and how it develops over time. It's kind of awesome. And also, yeah, again, please forgive the setup. I don't quite understand all of it just yet. There are people down in the comments who comment about it, but I have no idea really what I'm doing. And this is just another attempt at trying to make it a little more enticing in terms of pleasing to the eye versus just like a simple phone video, which this is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really what it is. I mean, I can be at a completely odd angle right now and not even know. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to leave it. It is what it is. Hopefully my microphone's not as badgery as it was in the start of last week's video. I don't want to turn on the lightsaber, as I said again. What I finished reading, I did it, folks. I did it. I finished The Failures by Benjamin Lyer. What a phenomenal book. It really started out, I don't want to say it started out slow. I read the first 100 pages next to Malazan, and then I put it down because I just got obsessed into Midnight Tides. And so I really stormed through Midnight Tides, took all my time reading that. I put this down, came back to it, remembering where I was, what this book does and how the narrative is structured and how it takes you through mysteriously these characters and then how they converge at the end is unique to anything I've ever read. There are aspects of this book that remind me of The Gunslinger. Dark Tower, he acknowledges in the book at the end in his acknowledgments. His acknowledgement for this book is actually pretty phenomenal. I think he was working on this for decades, and it shows. I mean, it's beautifully written. The character voices are really good. Dialogue is a critique I see from some people out there, and I get it. Obviously, this book worked for me. I think most stories do, as long as I found enjoyment out of them. He had some inspiration from Gene Wolfe. At least it felt like. I don't think he gave an acknowledgement to Gene Wolfe, but there are definitely some Gene Wolfe things going on in this book. And then he gives some credit to Gormenghast, Ursula Le Guin, China Mieville, Mervyn, Peake. These are people who I haven't read all of their stuff. I just want to make sure that you guys, if you do pick this up, you're understanding what you get into. Yeah, the main character perspective that we follow is Sophie, and her arc from beginning to end, and the slow unraveling of what you learn about her and the people that she's with, aka they're called the Killers, but I think unintentionally or intentionally, they are the Failures. And then the people surrounding her, and then the people in the keep, the world building of this book. Oh my God, this is one to pick up. I can't express enough how much I enjoyed this book. Is it a top 10er? It could certainly compete in the top 20 for any one of those slots that I have at any given moment. It was a really, really excellent book, excellent story. If you love those converging narratives that are told through unclear timelines, although told very clearly, like they're completely separate, but very rewarding when you're about to figure out who people are. It's very rewarding. This is an excellent book. Highly recommend it. Then, well, that was all I finished. Oh, Audible. I finished The Forgetting Moon. Finally, everybody, I finished The Forgetting Moon. And how did I feel about that book? I loved it also. I know you probably come to this channel if you're new. You're like, wow, this guy likes everything he reads. For the most part, I do. If I don't enjoy something, I don't usually DNF. I think I do a BFN, a buy for now. I've only done that with actually one book so far, really, that I do intend to go back to. I'm not going to say what book it is, but it is nothing I've read recently within the last couple months. But I do buy for nows. I do enjoy reading a lot. I enjoy story and I enjoy absorbing it. There are just different times sometimes where I need to be in the right headspace to read a book, and sometimes it's bad timing. That's the end of it. I finished The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee, and it was a great book. Nail, I see a lot of criticism for the character of Nail, who is, I guess, the primary perspective that you're following in the story. I'm sure you guys have already heard enough about it in general. If you've looked this book up, if you've read it, I actually enjoyed Nail's perspective quite a bit. I enjoyed Ava Shea's perspective quite a bit, and the lens that you're able to see what's going on, and with the I don't want to spoil anything with that part of the story. There are characters I didn't like. There are a lot of mistakes made by the characters, and that shouldn't be a criticism of the book. Uh, as human beings, we're flawed, and I think when you have characters that you write that are inherently flawed and make flawed decisions, and perhaps have a rosier perspective about their role in life and what they're meant to be and what they're meant to do, and then it's flipped on its head. I love that. I love that stuff. I think it makes sense too. Everything about this book, every character perspective made sense. I think my favorite character ended up being Galt. I don't want to say more than that, although by the end of the book, I would see why somebody wouldn't like him. I would also see why people wouldn't like Nail or John Drelin or Tala. There are definitely things I missed. I did this on audio, so there are definitely things I missed. And as I go into the second book, The Blackest Heart, I completely expect to have things kind of click in my brain that I listened to. I did go back and like re-listen to a lot of things, but earlier on in the book, I'm sure that there's a lot that I missed. That said, this book is it ties in the lore dumps very keenly and appropriately. I liked listening to the little epitaphs. I think I'm saying that right, epitaphs that are put at the beginning of the chapters more than I think I liked, because I have the physical copy of the book. It's just in New Jersey. I liked listening to them as told by Tim Gerard Reynolds so much more than the voice in my head. So the audiobook performance was excellent. I'm actually going to probably do a poll for what I should do for my next audiobook. It'll be between Red Country, Dark Age, The Blackest Heart, and Rise of the Ranger. I'm going to put that I'll probably do a poll by side of this video when it posts, that it'll premiere. You guys can go ahead and vote in that and let me know which you think I should pick up my next audiobook. I'm going to listen to All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy next in the interim until I get a steady vote on that in the poll. And that's what I finished. I love having an audiobook up. This is one that I think in the future, like years down the line, or maybe sooner than that, I would like to reread physically. And I think there are some that I've listened to on audio I want to read physically. There's some that I've read physically I want to listen to on audio. This is one where I'm going to want to go back and read the physical. I love the covers of Brian Lee Durfee's books, by the way. I think they are my favorite covers on any book ever. I just love the artwork. I'll get to my writing later. With my book, I went with a more conservative, not conservative, but like a more simple approach. Just a very I'll say laid back. I don't know. I'm not using the right words to describe this right now. I don't sound very articulate. But yeah, let's move on from what I finished reading. Let's go to what I'm currently reading. I got Further Into the Way of Edan by Phillip Chase. And let me tell you, last week's video, I talked about this book, only 35 pages in. And if I had read 5 more pages in, I would have had so much more to go into, which is crazy to say because I felt like my experience with this book up to that point was pretty good in terms of just becoming immersed in the world, getting to understand the characters and where I'm at. And then I got thrown through a loop and I was like, whoa, okay, maybe this is going to be like this a lot. I love what happens, although it's not great. I love seeing the tie-ins of obviously like the religious cult and where that's headed. And I love me a good pit monster. That's all I'm going to say. Some things I didn't expect to see in this book. you know, and I'm happy that I picked it up because it's beautifully written. I mean, I don't think I need to say any more about that. And the tie-ins and the themes of story, again, something else I don't need to say more about, so far have been some of the most enjoyment I've had out of it's almost like a reflection on story as you're going through this beautiful story in this beautiful world. And I don't know if that was the intention, but it certainly is showing up like that for me, and it's making my experience more enjoyable with this read than I have had with many reads. I'm only about, I think, a little over 100 pages in. I intend to finish this by next week, and then that way I can move on to Of War and Ruin. We're getting a lot of independently published books this month. So after I'm done with Way of Edan, I will move on to Of War and Ruin and get back into the world of the Bad and the Broken. But yeah, so that's currently where I'm at with The Way of Edan. And we are here at Berserk. We got the Battle of Doldry. I hope I'm saying that right. Doldry. Hold on, folks. I literally just got through this. I finished the entire chapters. Ooh, got a little Nosferatu in there. Don't want to spoil it. By the way, the artwork in this freaking is, I cannot express how much I enjoy this. Battle of Doldry. I know I'm knowing it now as I'm saying it, which is so funny to me. Battle for Doldry. I finished up from chapter 1 to chapter 6 of the Battle for Doldry, and there are some interesting developments that just took place. If you are currently reading this and you haven't been spoiled, or you don't want to be spoiled by Berserk, please go ahead and skip to the next chapter of this video, because I think this is one of those experiences as I'm going through this manga. It's my first time going through manga. I want to talk about the story more in detail and specifically because of theories and things that I want to get into. So please skip to the next chapter. We're on volume 3 of the deluxe edition of Berserk. I don't know what that means to anybody out there, but if you don't want to be spoiled up to this point in the story, please go ahead and skip ahead. So we have Nosferatu popping back up, right? We have Griffith telling Guts to pick up the sword after his sword breaks. First of all, amazing. Loved it. That was so sick. Anytime you have a giant sword, I'm a sucker, you know? And then you have, of course, Casca and her relationship with Griffith. And they're really, I just know that they're setting this up to get my heart torn out. Obviously, from everything I learned in the first volume and the first edition of this, we kind of have an idea where it's going. So you just have this looming doom over you as I'm reading. I have this looming doom over my head as I'm reading this. And just how loyal Guts is, and not even necessarily to Griffith, the slow unfolding of his desire for violence and his understanding of life, I think might be a good way for me to put it to myself as I articulate this. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, folks. I want to move on because I don't want to get too much into spoiler territory. Also, I don't fully understand everything I'm reading right now. I have ideas. We see Griffith get his vengeance on the count, or I forgot it was a duke or count, a nobleman who he had a relationship with once. We got a little more backstory from Casca earlier in this edition, talking about that. It was very, very cool to see. I'm very excited for, as the themes are slowly being introduced more and more. I'm Guts as a character, Casca as a character. Fascinating. It's a fascinating story, and I'm loving it. I'm so happy that I was introduced to this medium through BookTube community, because and Navy and the Navy and the BookTube community, because it's fascinating. I'm loving it. Guts has inspired so many. I've probably spoken about this before. Has inspired so many pieces and art forms that I've loved and enjoyed and have been some of my favorites. So, including Elden Ring, just as one example, I'll throw out there. It's really cool to see where that's going. And then Sun Eater, which I'm getting into, and I'm starting to realize it's starting to click with me. I watched Nerd Level Rising's videos, and he talks about how the themes kind of tie together, and how Christopher Rocchio, he's in the comments, he's talked about it too. How the themes that Christopher Rocchio ties into his stories, and man, it's very cool so far, that experience. So that's what I have finished reading. That's what I'm currently reading. Let's talk about what I picked up. And my only pickup this past week was this Gormenghast edition right here from Amazon. This is one of those books. It inspired The Failures. That's not why I picked it up. It got on my radar from, I got to give him credit. That's crazy. I can't remember his name. I'm going to put the name of the channel down in the comments below. He makes really good high quality videos, and he made a whole video talking about Gormenghast and the tie-ins that Tolkien's talked about it. I think there's something about an essay. I'm not doing this justice at all. Apparently, this is one of the. I love your author's favorite author type stuff, or the author's author type stuff, simply because I love seeing the inspiration of story as well as story in general. Because I like seeing where the onion starts and how it unfolds. This is a beautiful illustrated edition. I don't want to. I don't know if I'm going to show anything. I probably shouldn't even be looking, but it has like a really cool old style of art in the illustrations. But yes, this takes place from what I know. The castle in Gormenghast is the biggest player in the game, and it's just a very unique fantasy experience that I'm excited to dive into at some point. I don't know when. You guys will be updated on that. So, okay, what I finished reading, what I am reading, what I picked up. Let's talk a little bit about life. A little update. D&D. Come on. Myself and Nerd Level Rising, he has really dove into making this happen. I am not going to say any more than that. Just know that it could be on the horizon. Hopefully within the next month or so, we get at least a one shot going. I'm really looking forward to playing D&D again. I mean, we've got Alevist Lightseeker right there. Come on. If you guys want to know more about Alevist Lightseeker, please check the description down below where the Mercy Tears of the Fallen blurb is. It's not finalized, but it's, mock blurb, we'll call it. It's exposed for everybody out there. I talked about my Patreon last week, and not my Patreon, a Patreon plan that I'm going to probably roll out in the new year, 2025. Again, free membership, and you guys can just have access, essentially just an easier way to communicate with me, where I'll be able to, give out e-arcs for the book that is releasing in July. I'm going to move on to my writing soon. So all those of you who are here for reading, I'm not done talking about the community and reading yet, but there are some tie-ins to the writing. I always make sure to let you guys know if you don't want to hear me chill for myself and talk about my writing experience so far, that's fine. I want to give you the freedom to click off. At this point, I'm grateful you made it to this point in the video. If you did click off, either way, I'm going to continue. I talked about it. I got some really good feedback. I'm really excited to share some short stories with you guys coming in the new year. It's going to be a really easy way for me to communicate with you guys in terms of more of my my writing and updates. Hopefully that that probably sounds terrible on video. Of my writing and updates. This is why this lightsaber is super dangerous. You just never know. And thank you guys so much for being so open to that. I'm really looking forward to having that be a part of the community to kind of establish it a little bit more. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be eye-opening and inspirational for me as well. And then getting direct feedback from you guys, which I don't expect people to hold back. What I want critical feedback. That's how you grow. And I received some last week from another beta reader, and it was very exciting. Again, I said I'm going to hold on to that. So I'll just use this to transition quickly to my writing. So that way, you guys, thank you so much for coming. If you're just here for the reading, remember, like, comment, subscribe. Let's talk down below. I think the thumbs up really help these things grow. Although they are single weekly videos, I will probably be doing a priority TBR at some point within the next couple of weeks. I'm seeing too many people do it to not do it. And I love talking about the stories I want to read as well as the ones that I am reading. It's just a fun concept to me. So again, thank you guys for coming. If you just were here for the reading, I'm going to move on to my writing now. I spent the last week, I was at around 122,000 words last week. I'm up to 132,000 some odd this week. That puts me at 10,000 words for the week. That said, there was 4,000 words that I had written way long ago that this scene was it is a flashback, but so how I've structured my story so far is it opens up in called The Before. You can find it on my channel. There's a video where I read The Before, the very first act of The Before, where we go back right after a critical event in my world, and you get a perspective of a character that slowly unfolds. And I want to release the actual Before to everybody, e-arc or not, through that Patreon when it comes time, because I want everybody to get that experience. It's just one of my favorite things that I've written. It's very dark, but I am very, very excited to share it with people and talk about it. So I wrote this scene the book 1, which is still, it's on the shelf right now. This is it actually right here, if you can't tell. And I'm waiting to dive back into that as I continue to draft book 2. I will be diving back into book 1 through another revision before my developmental editor in December. I'll probably go through that in November. And I'm using the beginning and ends of my book to unfold something that is this very pivotal point in the world history where something happens, of course, and it really draws the characters into the story. Obviously, I mean, it's silly to say, but I mean, it's just the case. And it's a very important part of the narrative and how I structure the narrative. And so I went back, got these 4,000 words that I wrote from a character that I missed from the first book. And it was nice to get back into his head and do some action, do some development, do some narrative development, kind of go back and clear some things up. On top of pretty pivotal conversation with what I call the villain in this world, but I guess there's a lot of moral ambiguity in my world. That said, I like to think that there is good and there is evil. I think there is a pretty clear line, but the gray area is just more fun to explore, and at least the gray area of the mind. I think good people are capable of bad thoughts, just as bad people are capable of good thoughts. And so, yes, it's been fascinating to dive back into that. I'm up to 132,000 words. I don't want to linger on that too long because I don't want to give too much away. I think this is the most I've talked about the actual content so far in these videos. Maybe I could be wrong, with the exception of my before read that I did way early on. Yeah, I think that's good. Please leave your comments down below. Talk about your writing, what story you're writing. If you're thinking about putting up a short story, and maybe you've been working on something for a long time, and you're looking for a little inspiration to get back into it. Just know that give it time. Give the story time. Like these stories are important. Like, who am I to give advice? Let me first of all acknowledge that I haven't published a book yet. That said, I think as far as storytelling goes, I've definitely ornated a story or two in my life. I think it comes down to these things that pour out of us and the things that we're attracted to. And I think it's important. I think we don't owe it to anybody. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to share it with the world. Or maybe not with the world. Maybe it's just something that you want to put out there for yourself. That's totally fine. That's probably most of what ends up happening anyways. But either way, I think it's really important that if these stories are pouring out of you, that you give them the time that they deserve. I think that's it's our subconscious speaking to us in some ways. Anyways, I digress. Let me move on. I forgot I have a sparkling beverage, a little kombucha here. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the setup. Right, Alevist Lightseeker. Yeah, and I will see you guys next week.